In this video, I'm going to talk about reinvesting in your business. Now, this is a really big question that we all face as soon as our businesses actually start to turn a profit on a consistent basis. How much of that actual profit do we not either put into savings or spend in the name of Carpe Diem so that we can enjoy ourselves, but actively put that money back into our business so that we can be better? So in the case of Voiceover, it would be reinvesting in your marketing capacity, in your training, so that you're actually a better voiceover, maybe in different genres, or it could be on the technical side as well. There are so many different things that you could invest in and that you should be investing in. But when push comes to shove, it can be tricky to know exactly how much. Obviously, if you read on the internet, people will say as much as possible, and quite often articles will bandy figures of anything between 25 and 50% of your profit going straight back into your business for the fastest possible growth. So I thought I would take this time now, and this is in the middle of February 2021, so we're about a month and a half away from the end of the current tax year here in the UK, which is at the beginning of April, to go through what my profit would be for this year, roughly. I can estimate the last month and a half, and then see what I've actually been actively reinvesting in proportionally of my income back into my business, to see whether or not I'm doing what I preach or whether or not I'm spending it all on computer games instead. So, to start with the headline numbers of my own financial year in 2020 going into 2021, by the 1st of April I should have earned about £70,000 gross in total from Voiceover, of which currently I've invested about £25,000 back into Voiceover during that same financial year. Now, obviously, a large proportion of these costs are going to be subscriptions. The subscriptions for Adobe Audition, my editing software, my CRM, Nimble, my client relationship manager, which allows me to contact all of my leads, prospects, clients, and manage my marketing in an effective way. On top of that, I also have the domain of my website and the subscription to Squarespace, which is the platform that operates it as well. And that all adds up to probably around about £1,000. I'm also subscribed to Gravy for the Brain and the Voiceover Network, and also the Voiceover Kickstart, which are 3 groups where I'm paying on a monthly kind of basis to be able to have access to various webinars and little bits of kind of training and information and socials and that kind of thing, which I feel always helps me feel engaged in what's going on in Voiceover at the moment. Regarding equipment, I have definitely made some tangible investments. First of all, this computer screen here, which has allowed editing so much easier. Having a full kind of desktop setup as opposed to working just from a MacBook has made it much easier for me to actually continue to do editing and also do my marketing in terms of my workflow. It's really kind of helped. I've also invested in a new preamp, an Audient ID22, which does make technically the sound ever so slightly cleaner that I get from my microphone, the Neumann TLM 103, which I have had for quite a few years. A major chunk of this expenditure is the first down payment on my new studio, which is currently being built. And this is not so much to do with improving my sound quality, but really it's to do with my quality of life, essentially. The whole idea of rather than being shrouded in sound blankets and huddled in order to perform and make sure that everything still sounds consistently good, my new setup will allow me to have constantly natural light, and it will allow me to have space. But it's not actually really to do with the sound quality that I'm going to be offering, because I've been able to offer my clients broadcast quality sound for about 3.5 years. Training obviously is another major outgoing, and for me consistently I've been working with one particular commercial voiceover coach. We've probably had a lesson every other month, so that's come to about £1,500 in total for their time. And then on top of that, one thing that I did really want to focus on in the last year was working with people on performance capture. So I did 2 things. I did a specific workshop with Tom Keegan, the mocap and performance capture director. And I also invested in doing a weekend intensive course with the Performance Capture Academy, which was fantastic. They both were fantastic, but that also provided me with a show reel. In total, again, that probably came to around about $1.5 for those two huge kind of bits of significant training on top of the regular coaching that I was doing in the commercial sector. And then there were probably also 1, 2, at most 3 other workshops that I did, really so that I could introduce myself to specific casting directors in the video game industry to see how they worked as well, and to start to build a relationship with them, hopefully, which is always kind of good. But I have tried in the last couple of years to be a bit more selective and a bit more focused about my training, whereas when I started, I basically wanted to train with anyone and everyone that I possibly could to see what worked for me. Perhaps one of the most surprising outgoings to anyone but me is that I spent over £1,000 on chocolate for my clients. And just to clarify exactly what that's about, it's not really a form of bribery, at least overtly anyway. It's not something that I do in terms of reaching out cold to people who have never worked with me before. Rather, it's that when a client pays an invoice, that is when I will actively go to Hotel Chocolat or some other website. Lots of different chocolate providers are available, and order a small box of chocolates, whatever's nice that month in terms of special offers, the best that I can get for a certain budget, and send it to them as a thank you. And essentially, I just think that's a really nice gesture. But it also works in terms of reminding them that I still exist. It's a way of keeping top of mind with a thank you rather than it just being an email. So that is something that I consistently build in. And although at the end of a financial year you can go, oh, what could I have done with that £1,500 except on chocolate, I think it's in many ways kind of enabled a lot of future jobs further down the line as a result. So it's an investment. And finally, my second biggest expense outside of the studio build, which is quite an exceptional, hopefully one-off investment, is the money that I've put into outsourcing, specifically outsourcing leads, which was probably close to £4,500, almost £5,000. That is basically me paying someone on a weekly basis so that they come with leads to me rather than me having to spend all of the time actively researching them. So again, it's working out how to use my time most effectively. Essentially, the more leads that I have presented to me rather than me having to Google them means that I am actually contacting more people and reaching out and hopefully creating more relationships as a result than I would be if it was all down to me as well. It can sometimes almost double the number of hours that are actually being put into my company. Rather than my own 40 to 50, it turns out to more like 80 or 90, but it means that I can have a life as well. So that's a brief overview of how much I've been reinvesting into my voiceover business and what I've been reinvesting on. And I'd say probably the only one notable absentee that many other voiceovers would be focusing on is subscriptions to casting sites and pay-to-play sites. And they're not really a part of my own personal business model, so that's a saving anyway. But I'd be really interested to hear about what you focus on in terms of reinvesting into your voiceover business or business generally, what proportion you think is good in your own experience, and how you vary that over the years, if indeed you do. I hope you found this video interesting and useful in some way. If so, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.